Hello everyone. Well, here we are once again on the day where Apple will finally reveal the huge announcement about how amazing they implement now AI thanks to Google. Well, I'm just making things up. I have no idea, but I will watch it later. I don't know. Let me know in the chat if anyone of else will watch the Apple event in 2 hours from now. Today we talk about something different. Well, not different, obviously, about productivity for professionals, but there's some confusion going on when it comes to the local scaffold that we are both using, Paco and I, as we keep claiming, well, it replaced all the tools and we manage the whole life and business, and people think this means that everything lives in this
Destruction.
We don't even, I no longer have a house, I'm living myself inside the folder, and that's where we need to realize that there is still moving parts when you have a business, and even if as a solopreneur, because we see this there too, it's not possible to just use the local folder. But first of all, for me at least, the claim stands. I don't have any note-taking app or anything right now anymore. I'm really feeding everything into this local folder. So this is correct. I'm not using Heptabase anymore since I started this. I killed the read later app. I'm not using this anymore. And yeah, well, and even capturing. I do everything directly into the folder. And Paco, you just published an article where you talk about that you still have Tana for various reasons. So, for example, meeting notes. Okay, so you use Tana to record the meetings, but also for the outliner experience and all these things. So this is where we want to talk about where it's still worth to keep tools on the outside and connect it to the folder. And then I saw a post inside our community where there was one of our members appreciating this article from Paco, that
Thank you.
He's
happy. It was the only one, by the way.
So far, yeah. And that that he feels good that there's somebody else still using tools on the outside, and that's where the confusion starts, because I'm also using tools on the outside, and we need to talk today about this, in what areas of your productivity system you should keep using the tools that you already have in place. It doesn't mean that you kill everything and you move. And that, by the way, that's something we never recommended prior the AI era. It was always want to switch here to my screen. And this is the ICOR framework. For those of you who don't know this, it is the tool that our members get for, let's get Paco back in the center.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. If you make me angry, I can just move you.
yeah. It is super easy. It's like ghosting a couple.
Correct. It's real life. Yeah. So this is what represents a productivity system end to end, and this is my tool stack. Okay, so this is not just one box that we have here representing a folder, which would mean I would move this into the center here, and it covers all areas of a productivity system for a professional's life. Instead, it lives still in the PKM area only, which is the top left circle. And there are a lot of other tools still there. And we can talk today about Sansama and how we match this. But the thing is, we started this whole journey with the personal knowledge management in mind. And this is done through the folder. And yet for the business parts, we have still other tools like ClickUp. There's where we do the goal setting, where we do the weekly planning, where we do the project management and all these things, communication, where we have the chat. It's not living in our folder. We are not inviting other people into our own personal folders. And this is That's the crucial part here. And then here on the bottom left is the personal action area, the personal project management. This is where the task management happens, where I personally plan out my tasks for the week. In this area, in the team, we plan out what we want to get done in this business. Here I plan out what these tasks that I got, how do I get them done in during the week, and all the other things that are affecting my life, right, that I need to plan out. I think we have some stuttering here. Let me, guys, let's see. I hope you guys can see me properly. Or Paco, both of us. Now let's see what's going on. This happens if, well, it seems it's fine. Okay, so this is the point, and this is where this folder was always the case, and now people ask, how do you do deep thinking if you killed now Heptabase? If I really need to think deeply about something, I go to Miro and draft the things out or connect them back. I can connect them to the folder in order to make this work. Here, Sansama, To-doist, these things, these are all action, and those are now in here too, in a sense of visualization. So there is an interface where Paco built his own and I built my own to represent what is inside the folder. And in this interface, we now added also the functionality to see these items, but this doesn't mean that we replace the tools. The management still happens here. The AI can connect to these tools and update things or create tasks, but it doesn't mean that, you know, everything is managed inside the folder, because then we make an issue that, first of all, it's no longer shareable with the team, so we cannot work together in the local folder. And the other thing is, well, the speed of capturing and organizing of the tasks. Paco.
Yes, well, the thing is that
I need to check here in parallel. Just keep talking, but something is really stuttery here.
Okay. Well, no. The thing is that you ask about what tools should we stop using. For me, it's not about what tools should we stop using, but what features of the tool I stop using, and if they are absolutely all the features, well, I can stop using the tool. No? That was my case, for instance, talking about Sansama. Okay, it's pretty easy nowadays to create a planner for a professional. Okay, in my case, I was demanded to Sansama specific features that I consider crucial, in my opinion, based on our own use case and thousands of use cases that we have been living throughout all these years. And well, they took the approach of task management instead of time management. I think that for many people it's not clear the distinction between that, but the moment that you have crystal clear the differentiation between time management and task management, you see that you can perfectly build a time management tool that really helps you to really manage your time. And I think that that's really important because, well, the implementation takes almost nothing, okay? Pretty easy, pretty simple, the basics, but it's just what you need as a professional to deal with all the things that you want to do related to time management. The thing is, where do those items come from? Well, they come from the rest of tools, okay? The project management tools and the task management tools. Because why are we going to try? Because we have to think something. We are not software developers, okay? I'm a computer science. I have developed for many years. Right now, I'm developing a little bit. But what I'm developing are just gaps that I have found in my productivity system that were never perfectly covered by any tool outside, okay? But what I'm not trying to do, and I think that that's the approach at the moment that people start developing using Claude Code or any of these type of tools, is that they try to replicate absolutely all the features of all the tools they are using. And I think that that's a mistake because that's a waste of time because we are not software developers. And I think that that's something really important, okay? We cannot dedicate... Sorry?
Yeah, and the thing is that it goes into the same road of trying to find one tool to replace everything and make it work. That never worked. And then trying to force everything, making yourself, you realize this even more. It's just not possible for certain things that you do it yourself, where you have very established
and
tools.
also, it doesn't make sense because, for instance, in my case, I cannot live without an outliner, okay? An outliner has been part of my life, I would say, all my life. And the moment that tools started implementing this type of technique, I started using them. And for me, they are the best companion possible, okay? My best partner to quickly jot things down, but also to help me think on the go, okay? Quickly, no matter where I am and the situation, okay? It doesn't matter if I'm in the middle of a meeting, it doesn't matter if I'm on my own and something pops up, no matter where I am at. And for that, well, I was many years betting on Workflowy. That was kind of a pioneer, talking about simplicity and syncing between different devices, because that was the thing, okay? Developing an outliner, it's something that is not easy at all, okay? I can state that. That's why the tools that are based on the outlining technique are not good at long text formats and vice versa, okay? It's much easier, by the way, to emulate long text format in a non-outliner than the other way around, okay? For an outliner, creating long text format is really difficult. And I don't know how many people were asking and demanding to Tana, okay, to have long text format, something that it's based on the architecture, really difficult, you know? And this is something that it's, I could say, impossible and doesn't make any sense. Because if you want a long text format, bet on a tool based on that technique, okay? Because in those tools, you're gonna find a simple outliner, okay, that it's more than enough. That's what we have always said, okay? If you are not a pure outliner person, you can bet on Heptabase, for instance, and you can use the main features, the basic features, sorry, that they have related to outlining, and that's it, okay? Because you don't think by using that technique. But the other way around, it doesn't happen. So for me, Tana is part of it, okay? The thing is that how I drop things into my PKA has completely changed the game for me, okay? Because I'm taking advantage of bringing AI and bringing context on autopilot to my AI system, and that's something that it's important. So for me, Tana is one of those tools that I keep using constantly every single day. By the way, an amazing user experience, okay? For me, the best ever, talking about outlining, okay? The other day I was just, going back to Workflowy to see how they have evolved, and it's not the case when I try to compare both, sorry to say that, but for me, Tana goes beyond talking about user experience, no matter that I have to say that the synchronization, okay, and how you can work in different devices, Workflowy works amazingly well, okay? Much better, by the way, than Tana, because Tana added a layer of complexity that trying to replicate that on mobile, it's quite difficult. But well, that's a different conversation. Talking about action, okay, because that's the transition that we are seeing inside our members, our followers, and all the people who have been following how ICOR have been evolving and how we brought AI to ICOR. It was the natural step, okay? Once that's the more or less the world of information is managed, now people want to manage the world of action. And the thing is that we have amazing tools in the world of actions, okay? Tools really complex at all levels, okay? That are both to manage task management or project management, talking about business project management, okay? Because we know that we can call, as we call in ICOR, personal project management to refer to task management, okay? Because you also have your own projects, okay, as an individual, okay? But to simplify the things, we refer to project management as business project management, all those project management tools, okay, like ClickUp, Linear, Asana, all those ones that we know. And task management, we can say that it's the world of Todoist, things, all those type of tools. The thing is that those tools work amazingly well, okay? And it doesn't make sense start replicating, because what we take for granted, for instance, in going back to Todoist, we tend to think that Todoist is so simple because it's so minimalistic, okay? So minimal, so simple, full of clarity, in my opinion. You think that beyond that, okay, there's only simple things. And it's not the case, okay? It's behind that simplicity that we see in the front end, okay? In the back end, it's really complex. And you understand that the moment that you start to replicate that it doesn't make sense, because the rule is, what am I suffering with, okay? What are my friction points? And those are the ones that you need to polish and to try to develop yourself, if you are able to do it, okay? Because maybe the last conclusion is that you need to live with that friction, because it's impossible to find the perfect tool and you are not able to develop that. But I think that we have perfectly found a sweet spot. It's what we are going to deliver in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
That it's how we brought action finally to our AI productivity system. Okay, I think that we have, and also this is something that we have done again, splitting the things between Tom and myself, so that we have concluded the things on our own, as always.
Yeah.
With the exact same approach in the background, but with something completely different, because that's what we want to show, okay? We can bet on the exact same concepts and workflows, but the implementation depends on many things. How you think, your circumstances, the things that you like, okay? And all that. And here,
let's talk about
the things
this
that we're going to start sharing.
On
okay?
the map. So this is the tool workflow creator that our members can also use, where you have your tool stack that you have on your ICOR framework, and then you can drag it in there and think about the processes behind this. This gets now today a huge update. It's not live yet, that's why we're a bit restricted, but you will be able to pick any tools and have a lot more features in here. But it's enough to explain the principle behind what we just said. So we have this local folder, and this will be there. We will also address a question of the community. Adam is asking, I'm using the myPK system now since 2 weeks, and in general I'm happy, but my core issue is that I need to have everything running locally. One computer needs to be online all the time, that I can start remote control, and to make it possible to use it mobile. Is there any other way to use it also via cloud? So that's what we can talk here too in a moment, so we will address this. But let's start with this idea of this local folder, and that not everything lives in here. So let's quickly catch up what we just discussed. Let's say, well, I use this unexpected event thing here now, and say I had a meeting, and I get out of this meeting the meeting transcript. And in Paco's case, this is inside Tana, so it has two purposes, right? So he uses it as an outliner, but also for meeting minutes. So it's already two reasons to keep it. So
many more.
Okay. So the thing is, I cannot pick Tana here because I don't have it in my tool stack. But I use Granola, and I haven't added it to the tool stack yet. Okay, but I think there's still doesn't matter. Let's use this, and then you have the tool that gives you the meeting minutes, and I can actually move this information forward into my local folder. And that's what we need to understand. I have a tool for capturing, and this might get processed or raw. In my case, I just take it raw via the MCP to Granola, and I tell my insights, and it will grab what I have there and make my journal entry out of it. Now let's say there is something out of this that I need to get done. Well, in my case, I either have something personal that I create on To-doist, or some stupid things that I don't want to swamp ClickUp with, so I manage this inside To-doist. Or maybe there's even some conclusion that we had in our meeting related to the business, right? So I can perfectly use the API connection to connect this to ClickUp and work with it. So multi-connection is also there then. Okay, so you just need to imagine for now. And this is how I created AI so far. And now we have this interface where it connects to these two tools, and I can represent this. And as Paco said, there will be a dedicated video I'm publishing. This will be also become available as an expansion pack for our members who are not coders and they don't bother about this. If you have the PKA scaffold, this will be the starting point of an interface, and then you can just talk to AI to customize it for you. But essentially in there, this is what Paco and I have represented. And previously there was Sansama to plan all this out during the week. And this is now gone because the planning actually happens inside this folder then again. Okay, it's again in my PKA. And even this is a local folder. If you put an interface just means you have an interface, a UI, a screen, right? That represents the data that is inside the folder. And any other web application works the same way. You see something on the front end, and all they do is grabbing information from the back end, from databases, and presents to you in a way that it makes sense to you and it's easy to understand and organize. And that's what we just built ourselves now. And that's what Paco meant with Sansama. And I said this also for years, since we've been using it. Sansama, all we want is very basic. And this is so basic that now AI killed it for us. That's because there it's just grabbing external information and presenting it in a different way. And this is where the tool itself becomes just a shell and has no content itself in there. Whereas here, if we would now kill ClickUp and move everything into a local folder, then the question is, who do I give access to the folder? I don't want, and something we never would recommend, that you have this shared folder and you point each other's AI onto the same folder. It will become a real mess for the real teamwork. It needs to have structured data, that it makes it much harder for AI to make things up, because in ClickUp, for example, if they have a task to create, there's custom fields, so they know the fields they need to fill in and things like that, and that gives AI much more guardrails than working inside this local folder. So now for this,
yes, because I want to state this as clear as possible for the people. It's understanding that. Imagine that you have created your own database where you have, well, your notes, your coaching entries, whatever you are storing in that local folder based on markdown files or even a database, because we have shown both ways in myICOR app, okay? We have that approach, the file approach, and the database approach if you want to get things further. But the thing is that related to actions, we don't store anything at all. I mean, we don't have a table inside the database, the local database, to store the tasks, okay? What we have created in the folder, it's a UX, okay? Let's call it a screen, okay? That shows the content directly, grabbing the content from those tools, okay? So the task is always in To-doist if we want to use To-doist as an example, okay? So that's why it's so easy, because we just connect, grab the information, and show it in the screen that is part of our UX. So, and that's important because that removes all the complexity. I don't need to handle about all the different things that those tools are taking care of, okay? I don't need to edit the things. I don't want to write the number of tasks, because the thing is that the moment that I grab them into the tool, I create a link. So at any moment, I can go back to the tool that represents the single source of truth, in this case, To-doist, okay? And I open directly the task in To-doist to handle any update, any change of status, any comment that I want to add. But I'm having the possibility of merging everything. That was what Sansama brought to the table, that it was, I have just one screen, that this is something that any professional is claiming, okay? Right now, today, we were replying to another member who was saying, I just want to have one screen where I see everything that I need to take care of. Well, this is what we have developed in just one screen, where you can see, well, we have created different views, okay? We got the daily views based in the daily planning that we teach in ICOR, the weekly planning that we teach in the weekly planning in ICOR, okay? And well, in my case, I have created what I call the cockpit, that this is something totally personal, okay, because it's useful for me, where I can connect the goals with the project and habits and quickly see at a glance if I'm missing or have something that is tracked off. But the thing is that nothing lives inside, okay? I think that that's important and the key point, because
it
I
will
think
be
that that's
easier
where
when the people
people
once
get
the people
confused. They
see the
try to create
interface
that,
and
okay?
then they can visualize this
Correct.
better in their minds. That's something we will have ready next week to show. Then we will get back to the details. But exactly as Paco is doing it, I'm doing it too now. And what I wanted to show you here, so you get an idea, is, well, first, here I changed to action, okay? So you can switch from info to action, so you know the flow. So I have an action item, it goes in here, and in here, these are the tools where the action gets scheduled, where I plan out what I will do this week, next week, and then it goes back as information into this interface, what Paco just described with the cockpit, where you really have the full overview of everything of your life beyond just the action, the context, everything. And now this is all based on the ICOR methodology in a tool-agnostic sense, because many things that we talked here about, personal knowledge management, how do I manage action, how do I plan out my week, all these things has nothing to do with AI or with the tools that we show. It has to do with the basic concepts and workflows that we teach inside myICOR, how you organize your time throughout the week. And this is just helping you now. And what we did, we've been using these principles for years already in tools that we found useful, that makes it easy for us to organize this. And now we found a way to do this all local in a folder and build our own tool with it, because AI allows it. And now we've been able to build exactly the tool that represents the work we do with as aligned with the ICOR principles. And this means it was just removing features. So that's the point. So Sansama, again, is the best example, where all we needed was just a planner that quickly gives me the overview of information. I don't need to store anything in there. It just needs to show me a consolidated overview of all the scattered information and actions I have in the different tools in one place. And that is the purpose of this thing. And now what I want to show here is that I have now ClickUp, and I work inside this local folder, and I started now creating actually the tasks for my AI team to work with. I mean, that's where we need to understand what this folder means. It is just an extension of yourself. And this includes even the AI team. They are just working for you. They know your expertise, and they remove the friction from your expert work, so you can focus on the things that matter. All this is a representation of this. This had nothing to do with collaboration work. So in ClickUp, I show you now here. It's all a bit stuttery today. This is ClickUp, and here we are inside the myICOR app new features, for example, okay? And here is where I track what we planned and what we will agree on that we will work on next. This is the high-level planning, because AI will keep generating new ideas and things, and having this high-level planning where you align them with the goals. And we are not diving too deep into this today, but you can set your goals. Out of these goals, you create projects, or in this case, it's a work stream that is constantly running with updating the myICOR application. I go in here, and this is, for example, the tool pages that needed to get updated. I drafted the things out in here. So I thought about, what do I want to have here, and just quickly jot things down. And this is for me the representation of me, as I'm eventually the guy who needs to do the work, who is responsible for the delivery, who is responsible when it breaks, right? So there will be no AI standing up afterwards that, well, it was his fault, right? It will be me. So that's why I'm assigning it to me. It's my task to do it, and I plan out when I want to do this. But now the beauty is, I have AI connected to ClickUp. I just use the link to the task, or I just use the ID to the task, and I give it inside the terminal to Claude, and I say, let's work on this thing. And in this case, here you see a very deep dive thing with screenshots and everything. This is not me who created it. I created a quick draft, which would be exactly the same way how I would prompt AI. And this allows me now to decouple myself and work asynchronously, where I can create these things, but I don't need to feel forced that I need to do it right now. So I have this interface, if you will, external, but aligned with the rest of the team, that we will work on this. And we have the option to communicate about the things while at the same time AI is here. So when you think about Claude, they work in, the plans usually get built in phases. So it tells you, okay, let's do this. It will be 7 different phases. So that's where AI goes ahead. And I gave the rules, because that all depends on you. That's where, if you use PKA, there are the work streams, and this is a work stream that is just how do you work with me together in ClickUp. And this means that as this has that's not the actions happen in the subtasks here. So it created for each phase a subtask. And I can now go into the subtask, and here I have folded a description and plan just for the subtask. So therefore I can, even if the session interrupts, or I need to hand it over, or I use a different LLM, I have the single source of truth where the LLM can perfectly catch up where we left over. At the same time, I see the progress. And that's the difficult thing, because this is, I don't know how many iterations of a way to present work with AI. But if you just connect AI to a tool like this and you say, track all the work that you do, you will have thousands of tasks in no time. And that's not something that is useful for anybody, because then you have no tracking anymore. So this needs to stay a high-level task that represents me and my work and the different subtasks that need to get done to complete this task. And this is where I find it very powerful now to work with AI. So now, no matter if this is now, whatever we discussed, if it is a project work and we have a task in here, and I don't even involve AI directly inside. So we just closed all the projects, so we could go back and show all the closed projects. But see, there's a few more tasks that we completed. But the thing is, if I would have worked with Paco in here in one of these projects in the past year, and we would have had AI, and let's say we work on this ICOR book, well, I would just copy this link to this task, paste it to my local folder AI, who has all the context about me, everything that I'm working on, all these things. And I start brainstorming about this. I say, okay, let's start working on this task. What do I need? And this is my personal workspace that I start working to complete this task. And again, this is the same as we taught for years already with ICOR, that the PKM area, personal knowledge management, is the place where you do your personal thinking, where you draft things out and can be messy without anybody judging you until you come out with the end result. And this goes then back into this business system. And now we have many people saying, yeah, but I'm a solopreneur, I don't need to have this. I was working with exactly this setup as a solopreneur. The whole thing started as a solopreneur, because if you work this way, you get much more clarity on what was planned out, what are your goals and things like this. And then you can hire a team to get in here. At least for me, this gives me the clarity. You can do this inside the folder too, but then you would need at some point an interface or anything that gives you the visual representation of your goals and these things.
And for me, this way of working, of connecting the current tool stacks that you are used to, that they have the perfect structure for you, with the AI, it's what, for me, it was completely life-changing, okay? Because right now I'm interacting with my normal tools, the ones that I want to check, okay, because I know how things are structured. And the thing is that the work about documentation is amazing, okay, because for instance, whenever before finishing a session that has been related to any issue on linear or task on ClickUp, the AI creates an entry as a comment that has a date, so everything is perfectly documented there in that task, and it's amazing, okay? It's amazing because it takes no effort at all, but you have everything, well, in such an easy way to retake at any moment that was impossible when we were working. Well, we wrote down some things. Most of the times we forget about documenting, okay, and commenting and do the things. But here you have a perfect thing that lives in the tools that you have been using perfectly. It's much easier because when AI goes to that tool and see the structure, because this is also useful for task management, okay? I constantly use in To-doist the comments, the updates of status, delaying a task. My UX has become the terminal, okay, where I can talk in natural language, but everything gets updated. So the moment that's why I'm not worried so much about having it locally, okay? No matter that, well, we know that we can create computers, connection, whatever, okay, remote connections. But the thing is that they stay on my tool. So on To-doist, on mobile, I got everything up to date, okay? And I think that that's impressive because the effort that you put into this is nothing, but the outcome is life-changing. Because imagine the moment that you are correctly updating the different tasks in the project management tool, and any AI or any coworker goes into that task, everything is perfectly documented without any effort at all. And you can retake, it can be a starting point for the next stage. Well, many things happen in such a way that now, okay, because right now, imagine creating manually all those 8 tasks that Tom has just shown. We tend to simplify the things, and at the end, no matter that we know that they are 8 tasks, we just create 2, okay, and then everything it's and
that's exactly
everything, and then it's
point,
not easy
Paco,
to understand the things, okay?
That's exactly a point that you bring up here, working with a team. I just thought about, okay, I told AI to switch the status into progress the moment they are working on, and they haven't done this and so on. Do I need to be disappointed now? This is where we need to compare it to real work life, okay? Working with a team. And with people who hate project management tools because they need to update this just for the sake of the project manager so they see the status and things like this. So how many times they missed out to fill in a custom field or update inside a comment so that you can have the traceability of the progress of the task and things like this. The moment they forget and they realize, oh, we should have written it down. This is where they realize, okay, it's worth really writing it down. And if there's really a system behind, and then people start using it this way. And that's why I'm much more forgiving for AI when there is just 80% the way that I intended to, because everything is under control. I still have a system underneath that's perfectly stable. Correct. Nothing happens, and I can track back and say, okay, that was the moment where we forgot to update, and then I just go back and update because it can load in all the context around it. And that's where, when we talk about task management, there's a difference to the task management in this myPKA. So for those who are using this folder, there is a task management in there, but this is just for the AI team itself, so they can keep track of the things they are working. You saw these 8 subtasks. Well, my AI team is doing hundreds of additional subtasks in their own task management to keep track of these small steps and things like that. And then there is session logging and all these things that keep me safe and sound. If anything falls apart, I just point them back to the things and say, just check what you've noted down on the past sessions, and you find it. And that's where we need to set the right expectations. I think it's not fair. I mean, even if if you can say something like this about AI, but it's not fair for the companies building these tools now to say it's not reliable and things like this, and underestimating the time that is saved with these things and the huge leverage. I just saw recently a comment on YouTube of a person who is disappointed that we now go into AI and that we are no longer talking so much about these about the other tools. It is, as I said, just another tool, but it is insane. It is insane how the life has changed for the two of us using AI. That's why we are the living examples that it is working for me in the myICOR and paperless movement business, but for Paco, for 4 businesses, including a brick and mortar business and the 70 people employed and all these things, right? Where you say every week when we meet, you tell me again how insane the things have changed for personal clarity about, what am I mean.
And for me also, it's about the effort, okay? Because the moment that you have a productivity system in place with the right tools behind, you have that sense of control, okay? In my opinion, the sense of control of being safe and sound, peace of mind, okay? But that required additional effort that it was, time consumed. But right now, I got the things the best way possible, okay? It's my best productivity system ever by far, okay? But with much less effort. And I think that that's what creates this time for the... Yesterday I was working calmly on afternoon, okay? And now I quickly see the projects that are stuck, the things that I'm not paying attention to, the things that I should double down on that, okay? And everything has been replicated perfectly on the single source of truth. I mean, the tools that I want that to be represented, okay? Because at the end, we are just interacting with those tools, but we are not duplicating the things, okay? We are just bringing the information the way we want and showing it the way we want. And it's pretty simple, okay? Because you can start removing a lot of features, because Mr. Solid and myself have been a 4 years journey of simplifying what a productivity system is and consequently productivity, okay? But we cannot operate with the tools that are out there, okay? They keep developing features that we consider that are not useful for most of the professionals, okay? And with this, we are able to remove all that noise, okay, for specific use cases, like, for instance, the use case of Sunsama, okay? For us, a planner is that cockpit, okay, that command center for any professional that wants to quickly manage the thing, that anything unexpected happens and you want to see how to prioritize those things. All those things that are related to a decision-making process, that now becomes something so easy, so intuitive, so easy to handle, that remove that sense of stress, anxiety, okay, that fear of missing out. Because, for instance, you can think, well, I need to update it here, but did I put it here? Did it capture correctly? Will I search? For instance, the search. It's now so natural to search for something and receive the outcome that you were expecting. Yeah. And now, as we have said, with all this additional contextual information that our agents have been adding to those items, now you see the whole story, okay? I'm perfectly logged, okay? Because for me, that was the thing. I want to see the history of any item with all the logs, all the timestamps correctly put and set up and described, okay? So that combination in such a beautiful way, for me, it's, completely life-changing.
And that's the thing. I mean, people think always with the end goal in mind, and we haven't even reached the end game yet, where I constantly keep backfilling what I'm doing with my PKA, because I was so heads down building my ICOR, and there was the whole thing in my life for the past 6 months. So there was not so much room to nurture my PKA. But now it's done, and I started to do all these things in the past 2 months. And this is where it's really insane. One example, something I did very early on last year already, if you remember on YouTube, I connected my scanner, document scanner, paper, with my local folder, something you've been able to do for ages. But the thing is, I have now here a scanner inbox folder that my AI perfectly knows. Now, when I start AI and I hit the / command Larry, which just initiates him with some more context in mind beyond the Claude.md, he goes through a checklist. One checklist is there anything in the team inbox / scanner inbox, right? And then he checks, oh, there are new documents. Okay. So if I hand in an invoice, this is where mapping like this one, okay, so you see here already an updated version and there's more. If you remember, you can use this to wrap your head around it, because this is what you need to find, a very specific use case that is tangible, where you see, man, this relieves a lot of stress for a very specific thing that annoyed you for years. And for me, it was scanning information and then categorizing it and then extracting the information. And the other thing was keeping track of the accounting. So in this regards, for private invoices, I mean, like health insurance and things like this, when I have to hand in doctors' invoices and things like this. This is where it completely changed, because now I recently added my bank account, and now you can call me out again how crazy I am and how much I share with AI, but well, the benefit is just insane. And that's why I stick with Claude, at least, because they promise they are not looking at it, right? But the thing is, we also underestimate how much is actually sent to the Claude, because not everything that you have in a folder and that you talk about is actually sent to Claude. It's processed locally too with shell commands. So if I process a lot of transactions of a bank account, nothing leaves the computer at all, because it's just creating a shell to understand, that's just a little program to process this database very quickly. And that's something they're not leaving. But I'm not saying that everything is secure. So I'm not saying that's all up to yourself. You need to make your head up with this. But here, if you're interested how to do this, there's an app called Money. Where is this logo? This one, okay, Money. It's a one-time payment, and it is just a local first app that connects to your bank accounts but keeps your transactions local. And therefore, it gives also AI access to these things, and I can get it in. So why did I do this crazy step? It is just not to, categorize my income and outcome. Also, this is also something that you could do. No, it was, I scan an invoice, and it keeps track if it got paid already or not. That's it. I have 4 children. I have to manage all their health insurance and all these things, and there are masses of paper coming in every month, and keep track of what I paid, what I didn't pay, and I want to batch this, so I have a specific time in a week where I work through all these at once. And therefore, if I'm approaching the due date of the invoice and I start AI in this folder, he says, wait a minute, keep in mind, in the next 7 days, this becomes due. You need to pay. It's still open, because it pulls in the data from the bank account and compares it with the invoices that I have in the database. I have everything in the folder. I can say, hey, can you give me the invoice of a specific thing? And I don't even need to know specifically what it was. I can describe it. It perfectly pulls up the PDF that I need. I can say, open the PDF. It opens up the PDF with computer use, all this. So this is a very specific use case in my case when it comes to the private life. And another thing is really health. And here it's a lot of things that goes with this, because, well, I have an Apple Watch since it released, okay? So this means I have health data since the Apple Watch is out. I keep track of the weight. All this data is sitting there in AI, in Apple Health, and I cannot use it. Then I have blood tests, obviously, from the doctors and so on. So I filled everything into the local folder, so I have access to it, so I can find it. But here, again, I found a way to auto-export the health data, and I have everything in my local folder. So if people say, how crazy is this? Man, it's living already in Apple's cloud, and they say everything is safe and nobody can access it. And do we believe all this? I don't know. So the thing is here, really, the advantage I got feeding in my health data from the past decade. Insane, the insights. It immediately found connections that I never thought about and the doctors never thought about. Why? The doctors never have the full context. I was moving cities many times. Every 2 years, I had a new doctor and they all started from scratch. They never cared about what the previous doctor said because it's competition anyway. And all these things, all this bias going on. And here I get an unbiased feedback. But obviously, this is no diagnose, right? I need to be I'm not saying, okay, I have this, and I'm not going to the doctor and say, but the AI said that this is not true. But it gives me now a direction where I can ask questions. Would it make sense to make a blood test about this specific value that we never tested, for example, and get feedback from the professional? So this is really something where I went crazy. That's not something I did on day one. This is when I built trust over time and realized having more and more context about myself, I get so much more out of it. And this includes my mental mentor that I have in here and you know, the daily journaling that we both do, and a stoic mentor that gives me a different perspective on the things that I talk about. Well, it changed a lot of things in your life, but I don't feel that I'm handing over my life to AI. I'm just able to get much quicker to the insights that I would have gotten to with a lot more effort doing it manually, doing the journaling, and here we come to the deep thinking in Heptabase, doing the whiteboarding, laying this out and thinking about the thing. No, man, I keep talking to AI and discuss this, and I see my real data, okay? It's not something it takes from the web. It is my own data. It can open up exactly the file. I can read the file. I see the context, and I'm the responsible to make sense of it and be clever enough to understand, is this true or not? If you take everything for granted, that's a big mistake anyway.
We had all those items in different tools in the past. Yeah. We just have changed the tool that data lives. That's the only difference, okay? But the thing is, what you have just said is how quickly, you know, the capture and delivering insights is right now, okay? That you don't have to distill to correctly organize, because the moment that AI understand your structure, that's why we always refer to the My Life concept inside ICOR. Everything is so well structured that delivering insights, it's a piece of cake, okay? And you are just receiving, okay? You are just feeding the beast. If you are a quick typer, you type them. If you prefer to talk, you use voice recognition. But the thing is that you just take care of the entry that has no effort at all, okay? And you just receive the insights that you were expecting, okay? In the past, that with previous system, you were receiving insights, but right now the insights come much better, much faster, and without a lot of effort, because we should never forget when we had day one, a MindSira, and then something in the note-taking tool, and then an insight came out of the blue. What the heck? Everything was split in different tools, and right now everything is condensed in just one place, okay? That's what we always envision, okay? And that's something that now it's possible. And the moment that, on top of that, you can customize and create your own little application, okay? Well, you got everything you need. Okay?
And now that we, before we end the session, let's address the question about the cloud, okay? Because there's also a lot of experience we've both made in this context. So I will start with, I had the folder or the repo where I was working on Dropbox. I mean, local. Okay, so the connected with Dropbox and was syncing all the time. I never had any issues breaking anything doing coding, but I was only on one device, and that's something that you realize the moment you have two devices and both are working the same thing. That is where it starts to mess up. Or if you use something like iCloud, and I think even with Dropbox, it started to have these issues. Claude and other LLMs probably too, they move the working things into temporary files, and they're very small snippets. And it's working so fast in this local folder that the cloud sync cannot catch up and it messes things up. And that's where everything can crash, especially like us, where we have a local SQLite database. This is where everything can really collapse then. That was the thing where I thought, okay, I had luck for nearly a year now, and I don't want to just risk it. So what do? Well, it is a local folder now on my machine. And in order to keep it backed up, I could have still using Dropbox and only back up this folder. But I have Time Machine set up with my MacBook. I have an external drive. It's perfectly synced. Every hour I have a backup if anything crashes. There we go. So I have the full folder twice on my MacBook and in the Time Machine on my external drive. And now is it about accessing from external. So I tell you how I do this, because I don't need currently to go outside into a different office or in different wireless network. So that's where the interface we talked about, this is accessible inside my own network. So I can perfectly open up this interface on my iPhone and access the local folder on my machine and see all the things that I need to see on this interface. So this is, for example, working. Obviously, as you see, we've built the myICOR application, so we know how to make cloud databases and web applications and all this. So I could go this way, and I did this. Paco knows. I showed him many iterations of how to do this. But we said, for our members, let's force the things. Let's keep it local and as simple as possible. And that's why I forced myself to do it this way. So that's what I have so far, is the local folder and this Time Machine. And then obviously you can have a network folder. So you can open this folder up on your local machine to the network, and you can access this then from other folders. And there shouldn't be any issues when it comes to these crashes. I haven't tested it yet, but that's an option. And then the other thing was the remote, that I always launch the terminal, I start a session, I make /remote, and then I use the Claude application on the go. That's how I interact. So maybe I start a session, maybe the team starts working on a ClickUp task, for example, and then I just leave and see perfectly all the updates and so on in the native Claude mobile application, because that's where you can access your local folder. Obviously, the Mac needs to be on all the time in order to access this, but the displays go off, okay, out. So, and even the password lock is in, and it's still perfectly working in the background there without any issues. So that's how I manage this so far. There are many ways to do databases online, but I haven't had the need. I know, Paco, that you migrated recently to an external cloud platform for your SQLite database for exactly the syncing issue, right?
Yeah, because I was syncing through GitHub. It was one file that it was growing day by day, and I was having problems because also in the case of SQLite, well, they write to an intermediate file before going to the final destination, okay, and that created problems of synchronization between my two main computers, one here at the office and the other at home. And I didn't feel, I had a lot of issues, well, because then I got daemons, okay, running, processes running on my iMac at home, and they were generating content that I couldn't write to the database because then there were inconsistencies. Well, long story short, I found a solution that it's called Turso. Okay, and it's amazing because they have their own, because I didn't want to move out of SQLite. Okay, we thought about that. We thought about Convex. We have, as Tom has said, we have used Supabase. Well, I have worked in all big distributed databases, and I didn't want that because for me that doesn't make sense. Okay, it's just buying a truck to go to the supermarket. Okay, this is something for an individual, and I think that these guys have been quite successful because of this. Okay, because SQLite is serious enough to trust, because, well, we have to think that it's not just for individual purposes, SQLite, okay? Many companies use it, and there are many developers that are using it for professional purposes because it's quite serious, okay? And the thing is that now I can use the Turso cloud system that synchronizes, and that completely changed my life, because right now every single computer can write to the Turso cloud solution, because that's where the database lives, okay? No matter that it takes care of replicating that locally if you want to, okay? That's not my case because I saw the delay, okay, when I make a request to the database, and it's, well, quite enough for me, I would say. And now my two machines can perfectly write to the database without any problem. There's no sync problems at all. Everything I think it's immediate, okay? And for me, it has been kind of relief because obviously I removed that synchronization from GitHub. And talking about the files, I'm using GitHub, okay? So now I have in my two computers everything. And what I made is just, if I want on mobile, I create the connection with a Slack so that I can see the outcomes of the different processes that I, well, can keep running. That is not the case because I run always being on desktop, okay, those processes. I never use, for instance, the remote because I always close my different sessions when I move from one place to the other. But well, just in case, and also because from Slack, I have access to the database, so I can ask any information about the last journal, the number of any contact, well, all the information that is stored in the database. I have a chat on Slack, okay, a channel that I can check exactly the same way as if I were chatting using the terminal or, well, Cloud Code or any other chat window. So for me, that works quite well. And I have no problem at all. But anyway, I would say
But that's
that
a good
talking
example,
about these
how different
EDAs,
this is. And there are endless options. One that we didn't even mention, I'm sure many will mention, that you can have a virtual machine running via Amazon, AWS, or whatever you want to pick. And many may know this also from OpenClaw. Obviously, you can just have a virtual machine, put your folder there, and then you can access it from any machine, like you would have your own computer in the cloud.
yeah.
So there are many options depending on your own thing. If I would have more bandwidth in my brain, maybe I would actually build just an application for myself properly, but this is just not feasible yet. I have enough fun with my ICOR, and that's the perfect thing that I need. That's just where you need to know your options. But the thing is, you can only pick the right option if you know what you need, right? What are you doing? What is it that I want to achieve with this? And again, there we close the loop. This was always the case with any tools in productivity. If you have no use case where you see a clear return of investment, then don't get any new subscription for a tool where you then later complain, I have so many subscription runnings. If you don't see the return of investment, it's nonsense. We are paying beyond the $200 per month for the Claude for this coding project, obviously. So I constantly run into the API limits and things like this, and there's a clear return of investment there, time saved alone, and the speed of progress. So that's really, it goes always back to the whiteboard or piece of paper and think about what is it that I actually need and I want to solve. You draw out the process and then think about what tools would help me to make this process faster or more efficient and frictionless. Correct. Everybody, next week, hopefully we can show the interface then. Paco shared his interface already many times. I haven't seen the latest iteration yet. Maybe we get a peek there too. But it's just important to understand it is not, there will be not one person out there who saves your life building something for you that's perfectly fitting you. That's the thing. That it's just not there. And the more customizable the tools were in the past, the more you were able to do it for yourself. But there we saw people again, they're overwhelmed. They don't know where to start. Too many bells and whistles. They watch again videos or download a template, and then they have the same issue than using a tool that is more restrictive. So this is, again, go through ICOR, understand the productivity system end to end, and then you will understand much better what tools will serve you best.
Correct.
Catch you up next week then, guys. Or inside my ICOR. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.